For years, fans and followers had noticed tension between Fantasia Barrino and Le'Andria Johnson, two immensely talented artists whose paths had crossed in the music world. Fantasia, known for her powerful voice and emotional performances, had always commanded respect and admiration. Le'Andria, equally talented, had her own unique style and presence, earning her recognition in the industry. Yet behind the scenes, their relationship had been complicated, filled with unspoken words and lingering misunderstandings. Finally, after years of speculation and quiet tension, Fantasia decided it was time to confront Le'Andria. This moment was highly anticipated, not by the public alone, but by both women themselves. The confrontation promised answers, clarity, and perhaps emotional closure for feelings that had long remained unresolved. What would be said? How would the emotions unfold? The stage was set for a raw and honest exchange, one that neither could ignore any longer. Fantasia and Le'Andria's relationship hadn't always been strained. In the early days, they had shared a bond as fellow artists navigating the music world. They collaborated on a few projects, supported each other at events, and often spoke highly of one another publicly. At the time, it seemed like a friendship built on mutual respect and admiration. However, over the years, small misunderstandings began to accumulate. Perhaps it was a misinterpreted comment, a missed opportunity for support, or differences in how they handled the pressures of fame. These moments, though minor individually, slowly created emotional distance. Rumors circulated in the media, often exaggerating conflicts, and both women felt the weight of public speculation, which added tension to an already delicate situation. Despite their successes, this ongoing strain affected both personally and professionally. Fantasia sometimes felt frustrated by what she perceived as a lack of openness from Le'Andria, while Le'Andria felt misunderstood and defensive at times. Over time, the unspoken grievances grew heavier, leaving both longing for resolution but unsure how to begin. Fans and insiders could sense the tension, yet the true story remained private, hidden behind smiles, performances, and public appearances. For Fantasia, the tension with Le'Andria had been a quiet burden she carried for years. On the outside, she remained composed and professional, performing on stage and attending events with grace. But inside, she felt frustration, hurt, and a lingering sense of unfinished business. Fantasia often replayed past interactions in her mind, wondering if she had misunderstood Le'Andria or if her own words or actions had unintentionally caused pain. She also felt a deep desire for closure. Fantasia knew that leaving the conflict unresolved affected her personally and professionally, sometimes casting a shadow over her performances and interactions. She wanted to confront Le'Andria not out of anger, but from a place of honesty and growth. She needed to express her feelings, ask questions, and understand Le'Andria's perspective. This confrontation was a step toward emotional clarity, a chance to finally address the tension that had quietly lingered between them for far too long. At the same time, Fantasia struggled with uncertainty and fear. Would Le'Andria respond defensively? Could the conversation escalate into conflict instead of resolution? Despite these worries, Fantasia felt a strong inner resolve. It was time to face the situation head-on, to speak her truth, and to seek understanding, no matter how difficult it might be. Le'Andria had felt the tension with Fantasia for years, but like Fantasia, she often kept her emotions private. On the surface, she appeared confident and self-assured, continuing her music career and public appearances without letting the strain show. Yet inside, she struggled with a mix of pride, regret, and unease. She sometimes replayed past interactions, wondering if her actions had hurt Fantasia or if miscommunication had fueled the rumors and misunderstandings. Le'Andria also faced an internal conflict. She wanted to protect herself emotionally, fearing that confrontation might reopen old wounds or lead to a harsh disagreement. At the same time, she longed for clarity and honesty. She wanted a chance to share her side of the story, explain her intentions, and address any misconceptions. The thought of finally speaking openly with Fantasia brought both anxiety and relief. For Le'Andria, the confrontation represented more than just resolving a personal issue. It was an opportunity for growth. She recognized that holding on to resentment or avoiding difficult conversations had only prolonged the tension. She knew that facing Fantasia honestly could either heal the rift or, at the very least, bring understanding and closure. The moment of truth was approaching, and Le'Andria braced herself, ready to navigate the emotional risk with courage and authenticity. The moment finally arrived. Fantasia and Le'Andria met in a quiet, neutral space, away from the public eye. Both women carried years of unspoken words, emotions, and curiosity into the room. The air was thick with anticipation as they exchanged greetings, careful yet charged with the weight of the history between them. Fantasia began by calmly expressing her feelings. She spoke honestly about the frustration, hurt, and confusion she had carried, carefully choosing words that reflected truth without blame. She shared the moments she had felt misunderstood, and the times she wished there had been more clarity or openness. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the vulnerability beneath her composed exterior. Le'Andria listened, initially cautious but attentive. After a pause, she responded, sharing her own perspective, her moments of misunderstanding, her regret over actions that may have caused pain, and the challenges she faced, balancing pride and vulnerability. As they spoke, layers of tension began to unravel. Misconceptions were clarified, feelings validated, and the years of silent frustration started to dissipate. The conversation was intense, emotional, and at times uncomfortable. There were moments of raised voices, tears, and pauses as both women processed their emotions. Yet beneath the conflict, a sense of honesty and authenticity emerged. For the first time in years, Fantasia and Le'Andria truly saw each other, not as rivals or as the subject of rumors, but as two human beings with emotions, histories, and perspectives that deserved respect and understanding. By the end of the confrontation, there was no dramatic declaration of friendship restored, but a profound moment of emotional clarity. Both felt lighter, having expressed what had been unspoken for years. The turning point was not about perfection or immediate reconciliation, but about truth, honesty, and the courage to finally face each other openly. After the confrontation, both Fantasia and Le'Andria felt a mix of relief and introspection. The intense emotions of the meeting gradually gave way to reflection on the years of tension they had carried. Fantasia realized that confronting Le'Andria had been necessary not to win an argument, but to free herself from the weight of unresolved feelings. She felt a sense of closure, understanding that honesty and vulnerability could finally bring peace, even if the relationship didn't return to exactly what it had once been. Le'Andria, too, experienced a profound shift. Sharing her perspective allowed her to acknowledge her own role in the misunderstandings, while also feeling heard for the first time in years. The confrontation gave her clarity and an opportunity to release lingering resentment. Both women walked away with a renewed sense of respect for one another, recognizing that while they may not erase the past, they could move forward with honesty and integrity. Professionally, the encounter strengthened both artists' ability to navigate difficult relationships with grace. Personally, it reminded them that avoiding tough conversations often prolongs pain, and that courage in addressing conflict can lead to emotional growth. They emerged not necessarily as best friends, but as individuals who had finally faced the truth and taken responsibility for their feelings, leaving behind the burden of years-long tension. After the confrontation, both Fantasia and Le'Andria experienced a complex mix of emotions: relief, exhaustion, and deep reflection. The intensity of finally speaking openly had drained them, yet it also left a sense of liberation. Fantasia realized that for years she had carried frustration and disappointment in silence, replaying past misunderstandings in her mind. Speaking directly to Le'Andria allowed her to release much of that emotional weight. It wasn't about proving herself right or winning the conversation. It was about finally expressing her truth and being heard. Le'Andria, in turn, felt a wave of vulnerability mixed with relief. She had long feared that expressing her side could lead to conflict or judgment, but being honest allowed her to reclaim her voice in a way she hadn't done before. She acknowledged her own mistakes and moments of defensiveness, while also feeling validated for the times she had been misunderstood. Sharing her emotions openly for the first time in years gave her a sense of closure, a chance to let go of lingering resentment. The aftermath of the confrontation was subtle but meaningful. Both women walked away with a renewed perspective on communication and boundaries. Fantasia felt a weight lifted from her heart, understanding that addressing conflict head-on, even when uncomfortable, was essential for emotional health. Le'Andria realized that vulnerability was not weakness, but a bridge to mutual understanding. Their professional lives also benefited from this clarity. They could now collaborate, interact, or simply coexist in the music industry without the undercurrent of tension that had previously affected their confidence and focus. Personally, The confrontation strengthened their ability to navigate difficult emotions, helping them grow as individuals. They didn't necessarily restore their old friendship, but they established mutual respect and an understanding that allowed both to move forward without the emotional baggage that had haunted them for years. Ultimately, the resolution wasn't about dramatic reconciliation. It was about honesty, accountability, and emotional growth. By facing each other openly, Fantasia and Le'Andria proved that confronting conflict, though challenging and sometimes painful, can lead to clarity, peace, and personal empowerment. The story of Fantasia and Le'Andria reminds us that unresolved tension, no matter how long it lasts, carries a hidden weight that can affect both personal and professional life. By finally confronting one another, both women demonstrated courage, the courage to speak honestly, to listen without judgment, and to face emotions that had been quietly festering for years. The key takeaway is that conflict, when approached with honesty and respect, can be an opportunity for growth rather than division. Fantasia and Le'Andria may not have returned to the closeness they once shared, but they walked away with a clearer understanding of themselves and each other. They discovered that emotional closure doesn't always require reconciliation. It can simply mean acknowledging the truth, releasing resentment, and moving forward with integrity. For the audience, this story offers a universal lesson. Difficult conversations, though uncomfortable, are essential for healing. Avoiding them prolongs pain, while facing them can lead to personal growth, stronger boundaries, and healthier relationships. Fantasia and Le'Andria's confrontation serves as a reminder that honesty and vulnerability are not weaknesses. They are the keys to clarity, respect, and emotional freedom.